Ryan Leaf joining CHGO Bears right now. We don't normally get to see him at the Super Bowl, but it's like an appetizer. Don't think we're not going to try to run you down in San Francisco, too. Thank you for coming back on CHGO Bears. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good to see you guys.
So how good are the Bears, Ryan Leaf? What do you think? We're dream it big. Why not? This thing's wide open, damn it.
Yeah, why not? I mean, they've literally done everything that you would have expected them to do if you thought when you hired Ben Johnson you were going to get. And so, my sister-in-law works for the Bears, and I remember when she came home last summer and said there was just a different atmosphere in the building, and I think that happens a lot when you hire a new head coach, but I thought it was very telling. And he's shown up. Now, if I told any Bears fans out there with the fact that you have the Packers going on the road to the 49ers and then the Lions, who absolutely decimated you in week 2, there's as good a chance as the Bears being 10-7 as, being 13-4, to be honest with you. So these last 3 games are going to tell you a lot about Ben Johnson, how he deals with all the stress and all the overcoming adversity, and what you have in your quarterback. That I think you're going to learn a heck of a lot here in these next 3 weeks, and it's going to make for a lot of fun.
Well, and that's the question, right? What have you learned from watching the quarterback in Caleb Williams this year? Because I can remember when we talked, at the Super Bowl, there was still a lot of questions about what kind of a pro Caleb Williams could become, and now with the right coaching staff underneath him, it certainly feels like everything is on the right track. But what have you seen from your estimation?
I've seen a guy that can manage and control a football game. He doesn't turn the football over. He's a bit of a throwback. And in that I say he reminds me a lot of the quarterbacks we saw 20 years ago, where you're not seeing him throw the ball a ton, -2.5, +2.5 at the line of scrimmage. He's taking some shots down the field. His average attempt is more with what it looked like when I was playing 20 years ago than what we've seen from the NFL over the last decade. And so, seeing his completion percentage, hanging around 58 rather than, up around 68, 70 and those types of things, I wouldn't be too concerned with that. He's become a great leader. Guys follow him. He plays hard. He can make the type of throw that he made to DJ Moore in the back of the end zone. Now, that's exactly the play that everybody talks about in terms of don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Great throw. That's the part of this, because you're playing against 3 teams and the chance to go to the playoffs where, as good as that was, no one in that stadium and no one on that sideline and no one in that front office could have thought that was a good idea in that type of atmosphere, right? So the decision-making piece to all this is always going to be the case because he's so athletic. He does so much. My biggest concern from him coming out of college was he always vacated the pocket going out the back. At the NFL level, that wasn't going to happen. He got sacked more than anybody last year. This year, he's kind of, he's done a better job, but he still feels when that muscle memory takes over and he wants to get out the back of that pocket, and that's just not going to work in the playoffs. It's not going to work against these teams that are about to be playoff teams. You have to do what's asked of you inside that pocket, and when the check down's there or the flat route's there, you got to take it and be more in what the quarterback position looks like in the 21st century.
A big fan of yours in the chat. Bears on Parade says, Ryan Leaf, shout out from Montana. So I know everybody that's tuned in right now. Appreciate you joining us. Go ahead, Mark.
A lot of love for you in the chat, Ryan. We appreciate you being here.
And your setup. Your setup's looking slick.
I don't want to go all anchorman-y here because you deserve a serious.
Oh, it's made from rich mahogany. Yes, it is.
I mean, look at this thing.
It's beautiful.
That is a wholesome
from the woods in Connecticut. People, I will be flying into O'Hare tomorrow, and this will be my first trip ever. Second trip ever to Soldier Field. I went as a true freshman when we played Illinois at Soldier Field when I was a freshman. Didn't play, but this will be the only the second time I've stepped inside Soldier Field, so I'm excited.
Well, it's going to be a good impression for you because the house is going to be rocking on Saturday night. One of the biggest Bears games in a decade, the biggest Bears game in a solid 8 years.
And I would have said enjoy it while it lasts, but it's probably going to be here for another 15 years. So you're going to have time to come on back because we're having some stadium issues here right now.
Or I might go to Gary, Indiana, is what I hear. I don't know.
Right. I mean, that could be in your future as well.
That's about 10 minutes from my house, Ryan. So if you need to stop by and
so I bet you're pretty happy about that.
Yeah, Jenny, my wife makes a good chip dip. My mom makes lettered pancakes in the mornings. Stop by anytime.
Okay.
Anytime. I'm in.
So just talk to me from a quarterback perspective, how hard it is to do what Caleb's been able to, at least move himself towards. Because Ben has said himself, like, basically, I'm not easy on quarterbacks. I put a lot on their plate. And so you're talking about a guy, 68 sacks last year, which you mentioned. He's down to 23. He's doing more things on time. He's playing more under center. He's putting guys in motion all the time. Compared to, at USC, he's in the shotgun. There's, he's got he's got a sign up on the sidelines. He's going to drop back, use his athletic ability, and fire it to the tune of, becoming a Heisman Trophy winner. But how hard is, like, when you look at what he's been asked to do and what he's been able to do, like, would you call that like a massive transformation?
I wouldn't say massive transformation. I've always felt Caleb Williams is incredibly smart. I mean, this guy's he's really been built to be an NFL quarterback ever since he was a young kid, going through the Elite 11, the whole process and the recruiting aspect of things, going to Oklahoma. I think that's a big part of it. He understands offense. He understands what Ben Johnson wants him to do. And I don't think for 1 second have I ever listened to or looked at and saw Caleb Williams as someone that wasn't incredibly smart and had a high football IQ. And I think that's coming to fruition here in Ben Johnson's first year. I think a lot has been put on his plate, and he has been more than up to the task and completing it. So, with that knowledge comes great power too, right? Because he's going to be given a lot, and he's going to have to make the right decisions, and he may, overstretch a little bit in some instances. And, you always like, from a quarterback standpoint, when a play is called, that you are aggressive in nature, but knowing when that aggressive in nature route or play is there or isn't there, you come immediately down and not sit with it too long. And the longer we get into the season, the closer we get to the playoffs, that's the development piece I think Ben Johnson wants to see more. He's going to call the aggressive play call. He's going to call for that shot down the field. But once it's been taken away, which is pretty immediate, pretty quickly as a quarterback when that big play shot is taken away, that you get down to where you need to get down to. You're not taking any hits. You're not putting yourself in a position to take big sacks. You're getting the ball out of your hands to a guy like DeAndre Swift or one of those great tight ends you have lurking in the flats there. Let them do the damage. Make it and move the sticks. Anytime you look back at Tom Brady and what he excelled at so much is he never got behind the sticks in those big playoff games. It was always finding a yard, 2 yards. It didn't matter. You weren't in a situation where it's 3rd and 15, 3rd and 18, where you just can't win at the NFL level there.
Yeah, and somebody that was taking a lot of their options away in the last matchup was Micah Parsons for the Green Bay Packers, who obviously will not be able to play in this game, out for the season with a torn ACL. And so I'm just curious from your perspective, like, you watch that last game and you see Micah pushing, they're moving the pocket, they're doing all these different things, and Micah's flushing him out. Caleb had to make a play, sidearm around him, do all these different things. But this feels like a game without him now, where you're talking about, hey, when that shot play's there, you got to take it and make it. It feels like the shots should be a little more available to the Bears, and now it's just a matter of the Bears executing.
Now, so this is a little counterintuitive to what people may think when Micah Parsons is out. I think it's going to be more confusing for Caleb Williams in this offense because you have to figure out a way to generate pressure now. And Micah Parsons was its own one-man wrecking crew. And you could bring 4 every single down and know you're going to get pressure. In fact, it opened up a lot of one-on-ones for other guys to make big plays. So to generate that kind of pressure that they were getting with the 4 down linemen, you're going to see a lot more blitzing, I think, in this game tomorrow night or on Saturday night. I think that they're going to be coming from a bunch of different directions. I think the blitz package, the blitz tape that Caleb Williams is looking at this week is not going to have 75% of what he's going to see from Jeff Hassley. on Saturday night. So he's got to be really good at identifying. He's got to be really good at getting ball to his hot routes quickly if he sees it. But also, he's got to be really good with his offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson, talking on the sideline, looking at the tablets, seeing where these blitzes are going to be coming from, because they are not going to generate the pressure they did with Micah Parsons. So I think it could be more confusing than what you were going to get with Micah Parsons. You just had to figure out a way to double team him before, but you knew you most likely you were going to get a 4-down rush. It wouldn't surprise me if you get a ton of 5-man, 6-man rushes in this game to try to put pressure on Caleb, who's been really good against the blitz. But if they're packages we haven't seen all year long, if you're the Bears, it could be really confusing early, and you hope he doesn't make any mistakes going into those types of pressures.
That's really interesting, and why we wanted to bring you on here today, because that's a perspective that I hadn't really heard offered here this week, and that I think is really good insight.
So Ryan, you're on the call with Nate Gatter for Westwood One on Saturday night, and then there's the TV broadcast too. And I think this guy Tom Brady's on the call here. When you see Tom, do you guys talk? QB play. I mean, how's that go for you? I would be massively
just just a couple 1998 Rose Bowl quarterbacks.
Right.
28 years later, calling same football game together. That's how we don't really talk about what went on in between. We're dads. We're calling football games. No, it's always good to see him. We both called the Thanksgiving Day game in Detroit between the Packers and the Lions, and those are the types of things we talk about. I've been really impressed with how he's been as a father. When you're the most famous person in the world in terms of what you did as a profession, to be the loving father that he is, those are the types of questions I asked him. I asked him those little things because I can kind of come from it from the opposite direction. I've been kind of some of the most, hated or infamous, and my kids are going to be raised with that. It's a different component, but I always ask him questions like that about what he did in this moment, how he went about this as being a father, in the public eye. And I thought he's handled that with a lot of grace. And so those are one of the things we talk about, and he's got a place in Montana. That one of my good friends built his place in Montana, so we talk about that a little bit. And there's a joke that I always tell in a lot of my speeches, and I hadn't told him it, but I say that Coach Price and I, when we would warm up before a game in college, he would come over and we would look at the other team's quarterbacks, and it was the day of the Rose Bowl, and we were looking over there, and there was this kid, and he was skinny, and he wore number 10, and his name on the back said Brady. And I remember looking at Coach Price, and I said, "Coach, that's going to be the greatest quarterback that ever played." And it's a joke because he couldn't even get on the field that day in the national championship game, and he would go on to be the greatest, because it's not about how you got there, but when you get there, the opportunities you take and make. And he is the best example of that ever. I came into the league with about as much talent as anybody else, and he left the league with that talent, where I just didn't refine it, didn't develop it like he did, and he took the opportunities and made the best of it. So, but I will say this: if you'd like to mute him and just connect it to the Westwood One call, you can hear me call the game alongside the awesome video, and you hear the voices of me and Nate. But that's a lot of fun to do. My dad does it.
There's a lot of people that do it. You guys do a phenomenal job on the call, and I appreciate you talking about it, because it's pinned on your Twitter. 11 years ago today, I walked out of a prison cell, no hope or possible idea of what could be. Here you are, calling NFL, hosting radio, and
crazy.
I think like most important to you, you got a picture of your beautiful family in there. What an amazing story. So I whenever we get to talk to you, I always like to say congratulations, because you've been out there, man, and you're yelling at people on Twitter now talking about doctors who prescribe pills and whatnot. You're a huge mental health advocate. I just appreciate it.
Hey, man, listen, I built my house out of glass, right? You talked about it when I came on. It's about transparency. It's about vulnerability. I couldn't do the things that I need to do and address the things I need to address unless my whole world was out there for everybody. There's no power in anybody that they hold anything over me anymore, and that's what gives me so much grace. It does, so, when people I need to pull their card, I'll do it, because it's important. It's important to me that people out there aren't being fooled. They're not being tricked. They're not being but we're being honest and we're being transparent, and we're going to show the world that anything's possible. You can be literally in a prison cell 11 years ago, and 11 years later, you're going to be calling probably the biggest game in the NFL this season on Saturday night, alongside the likes of, Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. I mean, what world is this? It just shows you that no matter how far you've fallen, if you choose to do the next right thing, get up and keep moving forward, you have anything available to you. And I'm the example of that. And I appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday and then hopefully at the Super Bowl.